Here I'm going to show you the Lazarette and the stern. Originally had an access here. I have a big funnel so you can fill the gas tank. Originally I just ran one 6-gallon tank that fits on a shelf down below. Well, you can see that. And then when we went to the Keys in 2016, I built another shelf for another 6-gallon tank as a reserve, and I added the hatch on this side. Now you can't really read it, but under here, the Lazarette here is one of my fire extinguishers. There's another extinguisher in the cabin. This is a 4-cycle engine. It's a little tight, but she does fit and works. I added the bracket so when I'm running it for a long period of time, I can keep it open. Helps to get a little more air. And 4 cycles nice because no more smoke. I did upgrade the skippers. Just had a small fitting for the tiller and rudder, and I came in here and added some 1/4 inch, right, and 2-inch plate steel, and through bolted it down 2 more instead of it used to be just connected at the top. Had to add a little bit of teak to the tiller to thicken it so it all work out. This is definitely more structurally sound. The other one used to kind of wiggle, and heavy wind, it didn't look too stable at all. And to make here how I came up with the design for the anchor holder is just kind of, it hangs in there, it's already tied in, so all I have to do is unclip a couple bungees and it pulls right out, and toss it. And the year that it was put in last year, it actually got deployed because I had work done on the outboard, and the shifter came off when I was checking crab traps, and while I was trying to find the shifter in the bottom of the Lazarette, I wound up actually setting that anchor. So this is the solar shower. It could be just lifted out too, doesn't have to stay in there. That's a lot more convenient. In my brother's other video you can see I had the solar shower on the cabin top, and you had to walk over it all the time, which was a pain. So and the other thing I'll show detail later on is this is the mount for my gimbal propane stove rig. This stays here all the time. It slips in there. So that's a little more of the cockpit. I think the compass that was original with the boat. I did add a U-bolt for a harness connection, which in reality I don't think I did purchase harness. I've never really used it. And then here is the mount for my table. This came out of our old camper, and the pole from that came from the camper too. So we have a cockpit table, which is nice. I'll pull that out for another video. And from here you can easily see I used to have just a depth sounder. I can't imagine sailing without the depth sounder. And just changed to a depth sounder chart plotter, and it's a lower end Lowrance, but I love having it. It was we purchased this to going to Florida too. And then on the side I have my VHF and my cassette stereo, and there's a speaker, as I said, in the cockpit, and there's one that's in the cabinet down below, and they can be switched back and forth, which is nice. So if someone's sleeping down below, I can just play music out here. And I don't know if I can show you the height. So like I said, you can get in here and you can stand, and which is nice underneath the bimini. Okay. Go below. to the skipper. So there is no standing headroom. That is the one thing about it. But if I sit, it's kind of, you can kind of sit down here. Looking back to the stern, I have the ladder. This is original teak ladder. I run a cube, fits under here. Under this step here, I have another small fire extinguisher. And I have this pump, hot and cold. Usually I keep iced tea in it, but if it was a cold day, I guess I could fill it up with some hot coffee for the rest of the day. So I can just pump iced tea while I'm sailing, reach in and pump iced tea. The bracket's just made again out of aluminum stock from Home Depot. These white wood cabinets were made, I believe, the third or second year that I owned the boat. This one's like the kitchen rig. Got nice forks, some cups. We tend to use disposable stuff, paper, but I do have plates that I can wash. I have my cassettes here, paper towel. This is usually where my garbage bucket goes. It's also set up so it can hook on the back rail, stern rail, if I want. I kind of showed this here. I do have this settee on the starboard side as a sleeping. I have used it. The summer I was out, it was a little cold and windy. I actually did sleep down here. A lot of times I'm just up in the V-berth, or a lot of times if I can sleep outside, I'll sleep in the cockpit and let the kids and my wife. Back down below, my phone ran out of memory, so hopefully I won't go back over stuff. On the starboard side, I have a gear hammock that was added about a year ago, and I've had the one on the port side for a while. This is good for throwing bread and things like that, and stuff you don't want to disappear behind other gear. Usually on the port side here, this is where we throw the clothes bags. Over on this side, I got my kitchen cabinet that I had built that I had to get reinforced behind. So I have plates, paper towel, some cups, and utensils. I have my pump for hot and cold stainless steel. I think I went over, not all the time, but this is for an additional 5-gallon container where I'd keep water and my garbage can. And there is storage under the settee. This is where I have the regulation life jackets. Usually we'll have some type of the ski vest for when I'm out on the kayak, so they pretty much stay down there. And then there's another storage bin in the back that has my bumpers, which I rarely use. Usually over on the side, the steps is where I keep the hatch boards. Stay there, and I usually carry a scoop net, and it also stays there. It also has my cassette decks over there. This side is the electronic cabinet that I had built. It's built in for my stereo, the VHF. Redid my electrical panel because originally it was just a single panel. There's a spot for the speaker. I did put a fire extinguisher, smoke detector in here. I don't think I've ever actually had a battery in it though. The weather station I added in 2016, which is nice because it's nice to know wind speed and it gets the pressure and the forecast. So I do like that, even though right now it's not working really well. The wind, it's no longer keeping the wind speed for some reason. So it was only $45, $40 unit, so I might have to replace it. I got the battery switch. There's a single battery, and there's the other main fire extinguisher inside the cabin. And then I have another dishwasher rack that keeps my binoculars and some other odds and ends. My self-steering gear. These kitchen things, racks, stack racks, can come out. Be placed over here when I have to pull out the kitchen stuff, which is where my other kitchen storage is under the other settee. And there's my cockpit table, which I'll have to pull out too. And I am sitting on the porta potty, which this just pulls up. And This is a smaller unit. I'm thinking about getting a bigger unit. If it has any issues with it, it will fit the next size unit that goes up. On this side is where my sail covers go. There's an old fire extinguisher from our camper in there. The pole for the cockpit table, and then I have a little box that carries electrical fittings, all little boat knickknacks and fittings in there. On this side, storage bin under the settee has my toolkit. There's some additional emergency gear under there, and then there's another storage hatch that's underneath the kitchen, and I don't believe I have anything in there. That's possible, I thought, for a water tank in the future. I do have room behind the cube cooler that's worked out pretty good for my daily overnight storage for food underneath the steps. It actually is pretty easy to access. It seems like it's far away, but it does work out good. Usually I'll keep a small 6-pack cooler in the cockpit for being able to grab drinks during the day, or have a water jug if I don't have the big one with us. And then behind this cooler I have enough room. I can get at least one milk crate, so that can hold another 4 gallons. And if I had to, I could put some more water in the back of this settee bunk on this side. Then the V-berth. I said, on this side I have my tools and sail covers. Then over on this side is where all my extra lines are stored. Normally I have the 16-pound Bruce on the bow. I have the little Danforth in the stern as the emergency anchor, and then I have another 9-pound, 10-pound Danforth that goes into this compartment here, which is in the lagoon right now because I use it during the fall to hold the boat off the dock. And I can lay out here. It's not real large, but it does, it works out. You can see some of the pillows and blankets that I run, and the hatch, forward hatch, which has seen better days, but it's still working. And then one thing I did do to my skipper, somebody had mentioned about moving the battery up forward, and my battery is in the bow compartment. It has worked out good because if I'm adding stuff now, weight and additional fuel to the stern, it's probably helped balancing the boat. It does make a difference now that my kids are getting larger and they like to sit up forward. And under there somewhere is the solar controller is up here too. That's on the list to get. There's a more of efficient unit now. Since I'm only running like 120 amp hour battery, just a single, I thought about upgrading, but I don't know if that's going to happen. With the 50-watt solar panel, it seems to be staying charged right now, especially now that all the lights are LED. Probably the largest drain is the cassette player when it's running. So maybe that'll get switched out someday too when it dies. So I'm going to move out the kitchen and show you the kitchen setup when I pull this out. Like I said, I just pulled this stackable shelf unit out. Then I have, next comes my gimbal stove contraption. We'll just set that out in the cockpit for now. And just pull out my kitchen bin. So you can see that other back hatch, and my roll of paper towels fell back there. There's nothing really in that compartment right now. This has that goes the pizza plate. So I have pretty much run larger pots, so I could do crabs or lobsters in. There is a tea kettle down there. Some smaller stainless steel pots and pans, and it's at different odds and ends. Cutting board, grater. So that's pretty much the kitchen deal. I have it all stacked up. It's not going to fit under there. not putting things away neatly. So that has actually set up worked pretty good, and I'm gonna go pull the cockpit table out and set that up. And there's the cockpit table installed. The pole, I really want to make a wooden pole because the metal pole really wasn't made to be out in salt water, and it's starting to look not too good. I spray painted the bottom that was really rusted, so I might try to make a wooden one. It's probably a little too heavy duty because it weighs a ton. It's made out of I think it's Ippy teak or teak and 5/8 plywood, and it has clear. I've got our local charts. There's the bay where I primarily sail. So it's kind of neat. It has those plastic on here, and it can be slid out and popped out, and it does spin. So depending on, I don't know what's easier, it could be positioned that way. I don't know. Now it's crooked. So, but it is a lot nicer having the table for when you're cooking and also for everybody eating. So we get like at least 4 of us around it, sitting. I don't know how we survived when we didn't have it. I'm gonna go put the stove mount in now. Okay, I'm gonna try to put the stove mount in. Mind you, it'd probably be much better if somebody was filming me while this was happening, but somewhere in there it should be. There it is, and then it pops in, and I used to just have a rack in the back here, but there was nothing to. So when you were anchored in the morning cooking breakfast and boats were coming by, there was nothing to keep it. And this is just, it's made just to fit a regular camp stove, any type, with a cylinder. And so it's got a slot so front, so I can put the pan in there. It works better than the other one. I tried to buy one, but right now nobody's manufacturing them, and the ones that were used on eBay, they wanted way too much money. So I went back to Home Depot and got some aluminum and made my own. Actually, some of this aluminum, the round parts, actually came off of a yard sale pressure cooker, I believe. So the round rings actually were cut out of a pot. But the brackets and everything, there's really no bearings. I just had plastic from a bucket and just bolts for and it rotates pretty good. So that's really my kitchen setup between the stove and the grill. I have a spot, can lay things out over here. While I'm cooking, it's kind of out of the way of everybody else who's sitting forward. Table's another good place I can lay stuff out as we're cooking. But that's my cooking setup. Not really set up for foul weather cooking, so those days I guess you're doing sandwiches. Or I did get another mount this came off of the kids' scooters. I do have another mount, and I want to hook it up so I could possibly hang it on the center post, the mast center post. So that's an upgrade. I have the part, but I just haven't put it together yet. Trying to think of what else. Oh, and I think I did do the stern. I don't know if I did mention with the solar panel setup. I've been using these PVC pipes to hold My propane, I used to just have a single so I could hold 2 tanks inside out of the weather. And now I set this up with the new solar panels so I can actually have 4 tanks. And if I was hanging off the grill, if I was doing a long trip, I actually could have 5 cylinders with me. Usually I don't store any cylinders down below, and the stove doesn't get stored with the cylinder, so the cylinder will go back in there. So they've actually worked really good. And they got screw-on caps. And on the back I drilled a hole and have a piece of electrical tape as a pressure release, so for some reason if a tank let go, it'd be able to vent and not blow it up. So that's a quick set.